Hello, Podmates. My name is Howie Severino, and welcome to the third and final installment of our podcast series, Online Invasion, the secret battle for hearts, minds, and headlines. This time, we'll be taking up how the Philippines is affected by China's influence operations. Our guest today is Giano Libot, who's been working for years as an open source intelligence analyst. Welcome to our podcast, Giano.
Hi,
Thank
Sir
you
Howie.
for joining us. So, halo-halo yung players yan sa online space. They're the good guys, but they're also the bad guys.
Yeah.
They're people who are not well-intentioned. May maraming agenda dyan. At yan ang isang pinag-aaralan mo. No?
Yeah.
Yung paano ba nang bubudol ng Filipinos sa online space, especially politically.
Yeah.
No? So tell us about this work.
Sure. I think when we look at like foreign sources or foreign attribution, the thing is, for example, like an actor like China, we have to first understand, I guess, for audiences, na propaganda is not a bad thing for them. I guess if you grow up under the Philippines or any other democracy, we have such a bad parang instinctual distaste for the word of propaganda. But for the Chinese and the Chinese state, propaganda is actually part of the sort of accepted arsenals of the state to forward its interest and agenda. So that starts from there. It means na they're always in the lookout to be able to advance their interest. And actually, like what you said, it's their job to do it. The problem these days is that it's evolving those techniques and blurring the line between, for example, a material that's labeled as state-managed or state-run, and then you have the next sort of tier, and that's where the sort of penetration comes in, is when those messages get absorbed by what we call as local actors. Kasi maybe you'll be resistant to, that's coming from the Chinese state, I won't really agree with it. But if it's coming from like a local radio commentator, you're more likely to trust it because you know that person, proximity, familiarity with language. And I think that's where the lines really get blurred these days, when you have local actors parroting and mimicking official state lines.
Okay, so part of your argument nga is China is, of course, we have issues with China, di ba? Sa West Philippine Sea, and then supposedly they've been meddling in our politics. The US, of course, is famous for supporting pro-US regimes around the world, etc. No? Pero kayo, nagfo-focus kayo on China because, bakit nga? Why are you focusing on China?
I think that it's much to do with volume rather than anything. For me, I study all systems of propaganda, as far as the KGB techniques and the CCP techniques, and also the CIA techniques, like the famous ones, like the ones that recently actually Reuters investigated and revealed, the whole Sinovac one. But at the same time, it's about recognizing na, okay, granted that everybody does it, where is the sort of biggest effort and push so far? And unfortunately, I guess for those who don't want to hear it, a large part of the effort really comes from the Chinese state right now, especially on matters like the West Philippine Sea, and to some extent, as I guess by proxy, some of the local actors that sort of converge within their sphere of interest.
So, nagfo-focus kayo sa China because sila yung may maraming efforts to influence public opinion in the Philippines. That's not necessarily bad.
Yeah.
No? That means we're important to them. Diba?
Yeah.
But are you saying they've crossed the line? The ethical lines, kasi you're concerned with ethical behavior online, no?
So I think for me, the people that are accountable isn't the CCP. It's actually our
Chinese Communist Party.
Yeah, it's not them. It's actually our own local citizens who pander towards this, to grift, I guess that's the usual term right now, to grift, to undermine our own sort of like sovereign interests in the country, to manipulate political conversations. And I think that's sort of like the biggest concern. It's not so much that like I personally have a disagreement with the CCP as a researcher. I don't actually like Chinese history, and I have a bit of admiration for the way governance is structured there to some extent. But it's about local actors not being held accountable with the actions that they're done in sort of, I guess, being complicit in the penetration of those manipulations.
Okay, malaking salita yan, complicit, no? Kasi, kumbaga, kasabwat.
Yeah.
Di ba? Paano mo naman masasabing kasabwat? I mean, ang laki ng influence ng China sa Pilipinas, and it goes way beyond, even much earlier than Spanish influence, di ba? So, bakit sinasabi mong complicit? I mean, it's such a kind of it's a very charged word, you know?
I think the complicity it's not like a legal liability or anything. It's more of the techniques and the methods that they use to mislead their audiences. And, you know, the data supports it. There's been various years wherein many platforms have shown that they've taken down networks of propaganda accounts that violate their own community standards. So even to that extent, they're already sort of liable, like all platforms, X, YouTube, Google, even
Deactivated
Facebook.
Accounts.
Yeah.
What kind of accounts?
These are accounts that have shown to sort of coordinate inauthentically, so meaning they use fake
Inauthentic.
accounts. Yeah,
so
inauthentic.
are these bots?
Yeah.
Are these, okay.
Some of them are bots, some of them are run by real individuals. But the way, kasi, like from an OSINT point of view, the way we look at the inauthenticity is not just that it's a fake account, but it's displaying sort of inauthentic behavior. A lot of the practice online, I guess a lot of it is really supposed to be in good faith. But when you exploit the platform, for example, you have an agenda and then you have 20 accounts that fabricate comments to sort of create artificial momentum on a specific post, that becomes a violation for the platform itself. And sort of I recognize that as manipulation too.
Okay, so malinaw naman na mali yung inauthentic behavior, meaning mga bots, mga accounts na hindi naman tunay na tao, 'di ba? Okay. Kasi ano yan misrepresentation, 'di ba? There's a real falsehood there. Pero ang sinasabi mo rin, may mga totoong tao who echo or amplify messages that the Chinese government, Chinese, official Chinese channels are broadcasting or communicating. But again, I wanna go back to my earlier question. So what's wrong with that? Kasi there are real people who are analysts like you, who are saying the Philippines would be better off if we're friendlier with China. People with people who have real identities, people who have credentials. Are you saying that some of these people are also complicit?
I think if you analyze the way they set that kind of outcome in their conversation, that's where you have problems. It's not so much that they hold positions like that, because, for example, on the whole issue on the West Philippine Sea and our neutrality to China, if you ask, the defense sector and even the government, we do have that position. We haven't eradicated our commercial relationship with the Chinese state. We do trade with them. We explore ways to be able to work with them. But if, for example, a water cannon incident happens, you can't have somebody from the Philippines say, it's not that bad, or
it didn't happen.
It didn't happen. And I think that's where the problem really comes from. It's not so much that, like, they lie all the time. And I think this is where I have to tell people, the real persuasion isn't that they lie. They do tell the truth often than not, but in between that, they will try to insert lies in between to establish their own credibility and integrity. But we have no means to be able to call them out because we don't even know whether who's funding them, whose position they're after. They call themselves independent, but there's no parang open source way to determine that. For example, at least with you, I know that you represent a network. I know you represent like specific interests. With them, you don't really know because they're not open about that too.
So transparency, no? Kasi halimbawa may mga news sites ngayon, ang dami, no? Na minsan ang dami nilang followers, no? Or readers, and pag tinignan mo yung about that site, parang di malinaw kung sino yung nasa likod nito. Di ba? Let's talk about a specific recent incident, no? Itong si AFP Chief General Brawner was quoted as saying that the US has supplied us with a new missile system, yung Typhoon, no? Which is like most missile systems can send missiles far away, as far as China, di ba? Ang bilis ng mga reaction, no? I know you wrote about this, no? May nagsasabi na, wow, warmongering itong si General Brawner. But he did say that, right? Hindi naman yun, it wasn't a false accusation, no? And China is a real adversary, right? So, pag may nagsasabing, it sounds provocative on the part of General Brawner, no? Why should we disagree with that? Kasi it could be provocative. He didn't have to say that. Diba?
I think it also has to do with context. I did a sort of like background and research on the whole news item. So the publication itself that chose to pick the headline is Daily Tribune. But the real interview came from a radio program. I forgot which radio program already. And in that radio program, if you look at the whole sort of conversation that General Brawner had with the host, it wasn't sort of to provoke China or any actor. It was really just a very typical explanation of what are existing
technical. Ano yung range nito?
Very technical discussion of what our existing defense systems are. There was no hint on him that he was trying to brag. The problem is a lot of the reactions online focused on the headline and eliminated all the technical discussions that were within the article itself. So to be fair to Tribune, I think they tried to insert the meat of the conversation, but that was completely ignored by a lot of the online reaction that was, I guess, in many ways artificially amplified. The second thing is, and this is also another signal that I felt they just completely focused on the headline. They never acknowledged that there was another actor in the article too, and even in the interview. Defense Secretary Teodoro also explained his perspective regarding how our position is legal, it's well within our rights. That was completely disregarded. And you see all the hot takes from influencers, even from Congressman Polong Duterte, who focused on this single bite-sized headline and harped on it as we're gearing towards war, or like, why are we provoking China?
Okay, so you mentioned Congressman Polong Duterte, no? One of the sons of former President Rodrigo Duterte. And we know that, former President Duterte was avidly pro-China and anti-US. Anything wrong with that? I mean, so si Congressman Polong is, like father, like son, no? So he found that provocative, and he thought that, that kind of talk brings us closer to war with China, which we will never win. Ano yun? Do you think that was complicit with China? Ano yung take mo dun? I mean, pro-China sila. Some politicians are pro-America. Some politicians want to be neutral, or they're pro-Japan or pro-EU.
Yeah.
They happen to be pro-China, so a lot of Filipinos are pro-China, diba? What's wrong with that?
I think the first one is to recognize that they haven't really admitted that they are. So that's the first one. They
They
keep
have not
denying
admitted that they are what?
pro-China. They always make the position that they're pro-Philippines. And for me, I mean, I grant them that. That's their position. That's their explanation. The problem, I think, with the entire statement of
No, but former President Duterte
was
right?
Yeah.
Okay, sige.
Yeah. But at the same time, it's not the statement itself is wrong. It's the position itself is wrong. It's the fact that it completely eliminated out all of the necessary nuance from that conversation and really just captured and distilled what was really not the intention of the statement. From a disinformation perspective, the comment may not necessarily be disinformative, unless Polong himself deployed like bots. But the problem is it lends credence to the other actors who did use and amplify that position artificially. And you see that in a lot of like spoof news websites right now, wherein wala nang article, headline na lang, image na lang, and then just spread it, and then you just have like commentary from the influencer.
Okay, speaking of the Dutertes again, no, you co-wrote with journalist Regine Cabato a report or an analysis on the Philippine Center for Investigative Journalism website, and for disclosure and transparency, I'm on the board of the PCIJ, no? Although I didn't have anything to do with that article, right? Okay. Pero basically you outlined kind of 5 strategies of the Dutertes in using online information to fend off criticism, to counter criticism of them, to counter charges, like legal charges, the impeachment, ang dami ng issues, no, about the Dutertes. What went into those conclusions na ito yung strategies nila?
There were many techniques: distraction, deflection, employing conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I forgot off the top of my head. But in general, we started really with the data. And a lot of the
Saan galing ang data?
Mixture. There were already studies before by many other newsrooms, both here and abroad, and also even platforms that revealed the takedown of these specific networks. We looked at the messaging behind them. The other part is, of course, our own earnest effort to monitor. For example, in the conspiracy theory that I looked at, I gathered around like 150 plus posts. So seeing the sort of copy-paste method, using the same image, using the same script, and then tracing all the accounts. All of these are done manually. So we start with the data first.
Are these authentic accounts or inauthentic accounts that are like basically copy-pasting the scripts?
It's a mix. Some of them are, I guess, they raise red flags. Kasi at the end of the day, we can't really determine, I can't determine and make the judgment that it's fully inauthentic. Only a platform can do it, because they're the ones that have the sort of the access. But there are red flags to consider when it comes to authenticity, and we just follow the same. So my
conspiracy
rules.
theory. What's one conspiracy theory?
Well, the biggest conspiracy theory that has endured for many years right now is that the political attacks against the Duterte family isn't just from the Marcoses. It's really coming from the United States via the CIA. That's sort of like their broad stroke approach, that everything that the Dutertes are experiencing right now comes from the US effort, either jailing to the ICC down to the attacks on the impeachment.
And ano raw yung nagmo-motivate sa Amerika
To Part of which is recognizing that the former president wasn't very keen on making U.S. alliances. Although, again, that sort of betrays the tail end part of his presidency because he did sign the visiting forces agreement before that was over, and he did shift back to doing again arms trade with the U.S. again. So that's one. The other thing is, of course, recognizing that there's like linkages with the like family, and yeah, in general, that's sort of like the aspect that I'm looking at.
And so they're employing all of these strategies, no? So they're deflecting, distracting, they're appealing to, victimization, victim si, nakikita naman natin yan na kawawa naman si Digong, di ba? Nangangayayat na, etc. And then yung conspiracy theories, no? Effective ba to? Maraming naniniwala. How can you tell? Again, I'm asking about outcomes.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, granted, some of these might be crossing the ethical line. Okay, that's subject to your judgment as well,
Yeah.
no? But I guess yung impact could be more empirical,
Yeah.
right? Effective ba itong mga strategies na yan?
I think to some extent they are because, for example, like the whole conspiracy against the U.S. Maneuvering and puppeteering, a large part of that parang persuasion comes from legitimate grievances na we've had. So, for example, in the Philippines, we've always had some level of experience on the U.S. meddling or allegedly meddling in our affairs as far back as our history with America, even during the American War, wherein they deployed the myth of the aswang and everything. So a large part of it really responds to persuasiveness in society. So it's easy for people who are already predisposed to believe it to say, yes, that's correct. That's an opponent that we've had before. Why can't they do this now? The other thing with the effectiveness kasi is, it's not so much that people are sort of converted by it. It's the technique that they deploy and the lack of integrity in the way they deploy it. So like a very good example for me is what we call astroturfing. It's when within a comment section of an article, you have a bunch of sock puppets or bots that crowd the comment section and artificially create some kind of narrative. And the way I would make people imagine it is if we were in a room right now and we didn't have complete information about like fire happening, but you have 50 people versus 100 in a group of 100 people claiming that there's fire. You're more likely to believe, even if you don't see the fire, you are likely to believe that there is fire because 50 people said that there's fire, even if it was artificial and not really true. And that happens a lot online. It's very hard to guard against it. And yeah, maybe to some extent we're not able to determine whether that's a good thing or not, or the outcome itself is effective. But the fact that they deploy it is, for me, already cause to concern.
So, ang sinasabi mo, all of this is orchestrated.
Yeah, to some extent.
And it's orchestrated by the Dutertes themselves?
It's hard to say. So, through a lot of research, there hasn't really been any kind of established trail to link back that the family itself is behind this. But it's pretty much known through research na they have a group of accounts and networks that really crowd against them or crowd within them and act as sort of like a first line of defense and as a first line of offense to on doing propaganda online.
Okay, well, it's interesting to me, no, na parang there's no kind of solid line leading to them. Considering this has been going on for almost 10 years, di ba? Maybe more, no? Halimbawa, dun sa EJ case,
Yeah.
no? Whatever happened in Davao, nagkaroon ng whistleblowers.
Yeah.
Diba? More than one. That's why there's also the ICC now. I mean, may mga witness doon, no? This is another completely different operation. This is online. Of course, EJ case happened in the real world,
Yeah.
no? considering how long this has been going on and considering how many players are involved and how much money is in, bakit walang whistleblower? Kung totoo nga, no orchestrated ito, bakit nobody's come forward and said na, hey, I'm willing to talk, make me a state witness, I'm gonna blow the whistle, I'm the bagman. I paid off the trolls. I paid off the, all the operators online. I mean, wouldn't it be, wouldn't that make sense? It's almost 10 years. I mean, he's no longer president. He's facing a trial in The Hague, and then marami din silang haters, right? So why isn't there the equivalent of Las Cañas or Matubato in the online space?
I think it would be good to have one. I think there's a lack of push from institutions to explore that kind of investigation. The problem is you can't really rely on small researchers like me to do that kind of tracing. In fact, one of the studies in 2022 that was done by research led by a scholar named Fatima Gao and her group explored the political economy on influence operations. They made a very modest estimate, not just on the presidential and the vice presidential elections alone. 1.5 billion pesos was spent on influence operations during the elections. That's like their very modest estimate. And the way they did this was very hard. There's no paper trail. It's like what you said in the beginning. It's an unregulated system. There's no paper trail. There's no contracts. In fact, some of the sort of bombastic investigations that have happened so far, it's because politicians employed a marketing firm, like with the Infinitus marketing firm, linking with the Chinese embassy, or with Nick Gabonada before many years ago. Those are the only ones. And I think right now, if there is an institution that can support the exploration regarding this, we could have a watershed moment wherein we find out who really is behind it. My cynical answer is the other reason why we haven't found one yet is because everybody's complicit. Most politicians have used in one way or another a troll, inauthentic techniques and manipulation. So there's no interest to reveal yourself. In fact, in the recent elections, that was one of the few times wherein we've seen even local elections now employ troll farms and fake pages. Where before, I think the assumption for a lot of individuals was, fake news, it's just gonna be within the national elections. But in the last one, you saw even congressional candidates fight it out, duke it out, and have employed their own fake accounts to criticize each other.
Obviously, they're doing this because it's been effective in influencing the outcome of elections. At kung hindi ka gagamit ng troll farms and disinformation, malamang matatalo ka. Kasi yung kalaban mo gumagamit. No? Would you agree with that?
I think so. I think I guess it's an anecdotal litmus test of why disinformation has been effective, because politicians themselves.
So ethical behavior online in politics is a loser's strategy.
I think so right now. It's unfortunate. I don't really support it. I don't think it's good. It's a good precedent to have. But a lot of the local elections we've seen so far have really gone towards that direction. Not saying that all politicians have done it, but many, especially local, in the recent local elections have had elements of it.
Okay. Yeah, I get that, no? However, looking at results in the last midterms, last elections, no? Parang may mga nanalo naman na mga matitino na you wouldn't think na gumagamit sila na. I mean, if you look at their online presence, mabe-verify mo naman, no? So, it's possible to win.
I think so.
If you're a decent candidate. I mean, may mga dynasty nga na natalo. They had all the resources and presumably they were paying off troll farms and deploying bots and all of that, pero natalo pa rin ng supposedly mas matino na ano. So it's not necessarily a loser's strategy?
It's probably not, but it's also like just I guess a reminder that disinformation is just one of the factors that could be part of a campaign. Of course, my fervent belief is that if you're a government or an LGU, the best way to sort of inoculate your constituents against fake news is to meet their demands and their needs. You know, if you're a good functioning government, there's very little chance where fake news can, you know, penetrate your communities because you know you have trust with your local leaders. You know that they are meeting the material conditions of your constituents. But in a lot of places wherein it's very politicized, you have a dysfunctional local government, you have a dysfunctional politics. That's where I guess disinformation becomes such a factor. And unfortunately, a lot of parts in the Philippines don't have that functioning governance. I agree there are some that are good, but I think the evidence now, or at least the experience now, shows that not a lot of local governments are like that.
Okay, napansin ko doon sa article nyo ni Regine and the other reports that have come out, there seems to be little effort or even no effort to engage with some of the players that you referred to. Maybe we can call them bad actors or supposedly proxies for this and that. Have you ever tried to confront them or ask them about these things? Why they're saying this? Why they're amplifying the Chinese line? Why they're echoing, repeating? Why they appear like proxies for? Bakit ganon? Parang as a journalist, minsan hinahanap ko yan na did they try to get the other side?
Yeah, we've tried. I think the problem is there's already a disposition from their part to reject the allegation, which is granted, of course, they're gonna reject it. But I think the other thing is that there's always an accusation that the effort to sort of investigate and extract transparency from them is an effort to dismantle them or to sort of act in part of a bigger authority. Because you're doing that, you're pro-Marcos or you're from a political persuasion, which to be honest to me, I don't have that kind of linkage, but that's their disposition. They're really stuck in this whole, what I consider as sort of like a basketball mentality. It's our team versus your team, and there is no outcome but our team winning. If your team wins, that's a bad outcome.
Okay, well, natural yan, no? I mean, we're very divided right now.
Yeah.
Campo yan, no? But, I mean, putting myself, for example, in the mindset of a Duterte loyalist, pwede kong tanungin, why is your PCIJ article only about the Dutertes? Are you investigating the Marcoses, you know, the Romualdez clique, you know, that whole, I mean, there's such a big machinery as well. Bakit kami lang yung iniimbestiga ninyo?
Yeah, which is really, I guess for me, very, very interesting because there have been a lot of already reports, not just myself, but a lot of journalists have tried to look into the other activities of other politicians too. There's been a large amount of data and history regarding the Marcos revisionism efforts, wherein it was really quoted, wherein they've allegedly deployed trolls and bots. I think it was X that removed them before. With the Romualdeses, I remember both PCIJ and CMFR, another organization, talked about the buying of Martin Romualdez with media. So I think the problem is they refuse to see the sort of broad effort from the media sector to be balanced. It's just that they're very stuck na the time of the moment now is to attack one body, and if you're attacking them, you're already playing for the other side.
That's one of the strategies you were talking about.
Yes, exactly.
The victim card.
Yeah, the victim
diba?
card.
Parang bakit kami lang, diba? Although what you're saying is that's not true because there have been efforts to investigate. Nakatutok lang kami sa inyo because of you mentioned earlier the volume.
Yeah.
There's just so much out there. Diba?
I like that whole sort of graphic to show na everybody does information, but the board on this side is just completely failed, whereas you have like a few siguro lines here from the other side. I think that's how I describe it.
So for those listening, okay, and everyone listening, even if you're already a discerning viewer, member of this audience, you might have people in your household who's not so discerning. Lahat tayo may ganon. May tito, tita, lolo, lola, parents, etc., who do not necessarily think before they click, right? They're sharing mga kung ano-ano. No? So, anong advice mo sa mga online users?
I think for me, a lot of it comes from changing our mindset first on what kind of assistance we have to bring. I think the mistake has been in the past. Now we tend to rely too much on correction, telling them that outcome is wrong or your choice is wrong. And I think if you look at why a lot of the disinformation is persuasive, and especially if you analyze the influencers and how they go about their programs, their methods, a lot of it really is rested under the process. Now they make their audiences feel like they're in control and they have the power to decide. Like Google it yourself, research it yourself. Even if they already know that the outcome of that research is going to be sort of towards their favor, they make the illusion that they have that power. And I think for us, if you have somebody in your household that needs help, don't question their decision first. Ask them, why did you come up with that decision? Trace back, provide them the right necessary ways to be able to interrogate the question on their own, so that if ever they come up with a decision, whether it's the same or not, at least you know that it's coming from an informed place and not something that was skewed against a certain individual or a certain politician's favor. I think that's for me the best advice.
So my final question is, ako bilang isang social media user, online user, when I come across disinformation, outright lies, especially if it goes against national interest, if it's blatantly in favor of corrupt interest, etc., it causes my stress level to go up. Diba? So I just kind of leave that space. But this is your job, diba? This is what you do.
Yeah.
So how do you inoculate yourself from going crazy?
That's a really good question.
I mean, somebody has to do it. I admire people like you who are in this space. We have people at GMA who do the same thing. We have social media producers. We have people who will receive reports that, dinipake ako. No? I mean, can we have this deactivated? So they have to investigate. They have to look at all of this context, diba? And a lot of other content. And I can imagine how, and it is stressful.
Yeah.
For them, no, and they have my sympathy, and you have mine. So, what do you do?
I think one of the interesting internet concepts I've always found intriguing is the whole idea of like Brandolini's law, which states that a lot of the effort to get rid of junk online is very little compared to the amount of effort to create junk online. And I think when you recognize that, you really need to take care of yourself when you're in this particular field. It's the same, I guess, principle when it comes to those who monitor TV, those who do any kind of content moderation. You need to emphasize mental health in the process. You can get traumatized by the images that you see, the amount of messaging that you see. But there's even a saying that if you stare into the abyss far long enough, you might come out as part of the abyss as well. So I think for people in this practice, I hope you get enough resources and enough help. But at the same time, you also need to really consciously help yourself. Take a break, watch a movie. Don't get too jaded with politics. Keep hope and inspiration that there's a better day out there. I try my best to do that. I'm a bit of an optimist. I read epics. I'm a big Lord of the Rings fan. I always feel like little things matter, even if I don't see the outcome. So yeah, konting ano lang, konting delusion. but I think it helps. It helps to like.
Well, you
really
have to
just
be an
push forward.
optimist. Kasi you can't be in this job and think you're doing all this for nothing.
Yep.
Diba? I mean, we're all kind of doing our little thing to improve the world.
Yeah.
That's why we do what we do. Thank you. Thank you for that conversation.
Thank you, sir.
And I'm glad we ended kind of hopeful and optimistic. Thank you, Giano Libot. And this wraps up our special podcast series, Online Invasion, the Secret Battle for Hearts, Minds, and Headlines. There's no doubt that politically, Filipinos are as divided as ever before. To what extent is this lack of consensus due to disinformation or the lies found online? Who benefits from spreading lies? And to what extent is that disinformation originating in China? No one knows for sure, but we've shared certain patterns in this series. We hope you'll be skeptical and ask similar questions. Thank you, Podmates, for listening and watching until the very end of this podcast series. Alam nyo na, nakakatalino ang mahabang attention span. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Mabuhay kayo at ingat lagi.